Okay, so Codex has come back and it's saying that it's basically implemented a front end chat that we can use to test. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to ask it before we continue. If you remember in the requirements document, I gave it a prompt somewhere from the blueprint. So let me find that first. I want to make sure it's used the prompt. Where was that? Let me find that first. Okay, here is the prompt included in the blueprint. So I just want to make sure that Codex is using this prompt. So I'm just going to ask it down here. Are you using the system prompt that was defined in the requirements document, and have you defined the tools? Because I want you to be using the tools defined inside of the system as per the requirements document. All right, let's just make sure it has set this up properly. Okay, so it hasn't done that yet, as what we can see here. And so I want it to do it so that I can test this properly. I want you to follow the requirements document and implement the system prompt with the tools integrated into the AI. And we don't need to generate the PDF at this stage. However, I do want you to use the email provider credentials that are available in the local environment file to generate a HTML email of the quote and send it to the customer, which will be me for now, from the conversation. And also provide the customer with the estimate inside the conversation for now until we test this and I'm satisfied with the output, upon which we will then integrate SMS. All right, so I just want to make sure we are testing this thoroughly, and I want to make sure it's kind of using the tools. Like I want it to define these functions, the get materials, the get elaborate, the generate quote, and send email functions inside the tool. Okay, and it's going to use our sheet as the database, right? Remember we set up our Google Sheet, which has all the different prices that we would talk with our client, the tradie, to set up, or in the database if there is already a database the tradie uses. Most of them don't. Most of them have Excel, or we convert that into a Google Sheet, or they have a Google Sheet, and they basically just look up their Google Sheet and put in formulas and come up with an estimate. And we want to try and automate that process. Okay. Now, it takes tradies usually 8 to 10 hours per week working on estimates. Usually they come in and they start on a Monday, and when they come in on a Monday, they've got quote requests over the weekend or from Friday evening. And usually when the traders that I speak with, most of their Monday and some of it Tuesday, they just spend preparing quotes. Okay, so that's what we're automating here. That's 6 to 10 hours per week. Now, typically, traders charge between $80 and $100 an hour. So we're saving the trader, in this case, $800 to $1,000 per week, or 8 to 10 hours per week, where they could be out in the field actually doing their work, right? Actually making money. And so when you look at that over a month, then that's anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 per month that we are potentially giving tradie back in time or increased revenue, because they're now able to spend their time with other work, okay, rather than admin. So that's how I kind of price this. And then there's a maintenance monthly retainer, $250 to $500 per month, just helping them maintain the system, making changes and adding new services, refining, or just troubleshooting when things break or they want changes. Okay, so let's wait for the Codex to respond, and then we can test this through the chat UI. Once we're happy with the output, we'll then integrate this with SMS. Okay, so we should be able to run and test this now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a terminal, and let me bring that over to this screen. Okay, so to run this, we just got to go into the project directory and just type in npm run dev. And those instructions are there. Codex told me to run this. So what that does is allows us to then access the browser, and that's where the solution will be. So Codex said run this command. Okay. Now I'm going to bring down what we can see in the browser so you can see the solution. Now remember, this is just us testing the app, right? This is not what the user is going to see. Okay. Essentially, we're testing the app to make sure the estimate is correct. And then we're going to integrate this with SMS or WhatsApp or the website, however the client wants. But in this example, I'm just going to provide you an example with integrating the tool with SMS, right? An agent. So, okay. Hello, I'm just going to pretend I'm a customer, how a customer would talk. Okay. And I hit an error with processing the quote, Open API error. Now, I did see some emails that OpenAI was having some issues, but anyway, saying invalid schema. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to go into Visual Studio, okay, and I'm going to paste it in, let it work it out. Well, it's not my job to work this out, okay? So I'll just paste it in the error, and we'll wait and see what Codex responds with. Okay, so Codex said that it's fixed the issue. right? And we'll have to test again. So I'm just going to come here and refresh. So it's still refreshing. Just going to wait for this to reload. There we go. Just going to type in hello. This is what a user would type in, right? So it needs to handle this. And this is our test. It's asking for, give me your job size and give me your name and email, but that's not how the customer responds. The customer first says hello. And then say, that's better, right? So let's kind of turn this into a conversation. So we can kind of refine this as we test, but let's put in some details. So let's just say my name is Abdul and I want to retile my bathroom. Okay, let's see how it handles that. Okay, so there we go. That's exactly how I want it to respond. Ask the questions necessary to get the details you want. So how many square meters is the bathroom roughly for the job? Okay, and it's saying, could you also please share your email address to send a quote? So I'm just going to say 20. I'm not going to send my email address. This is how a customer would respond, right? They don't always provide all the details. So my email address is, there we go. Now, I didn't really ask for a quote, so we're going to refine this a bit more. I want to see that it captures the details here properly and the tools that it uses. Okay, so, all right, there's an email. It's captured the square meters. There's the quote. Now, this is good. These are the tools that it's called. So it's understood the materials that it needs. Okay, and it's worked out that it needs some grout, some sealant, some adhesive. Now, it's added here that it needs ceramic tiles, and it really should ask if I've already bought tiles or not. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And it's got the labor rate, and it's also got understood that this is a tiling job, which is the only job. Okay, and it's also sent this back. So that's pretty cool, right? In the first attempt, with a minor issue with the interface, but it's gone and it's called all the tools, and basically the tool means it's going to the database and got the material that it needs, got the rates for the tiler, understood that it needs sealant, understood that it's this size. Okay, and it's also sent me an email. I can see that. Let me bring that down so you can see the email as well. Okay, so here's the email. There's the subject, your tiling quote for the bathroom. Pete's Tiling is the name. Right now, this is where you would put the client's email address. I've just used the email address from my website for the test. Okay, and now saying hi customer, so that's a problem. Should say the name. And it's got thanks for your inquiry. Here's our estimate. And there's all the detail. Now we can clean this up a bit. Okay, but how great is that? The customer immediately gets the email with the quote in their email address and gets a response on the chat, which will be SMS. Now we can include this on the website as well for the client. Okay, so let's now clean this up a little bit. So let's first mention the issue. The email doesn't mention customer name. It says hello customer. I think it said hi customer. Okay, and what else did I want to refine? It was the conversation. So let me bring that window back up. Okay, I think this is fine. Yeah, look, I think the rest is fine. Let's just add a couple of things. Agent should, let me actually start talking. Agent should start with a greeting and ask the customer what assistance does the customer need, and wait for the customer to say they need a quote. The agent should be conversational. Actually, there was one more thing. And the agent should check with the customer first if they need tiles, or have they already purchased the tiles for the job, because the job may just be an installation job. All right, so there's a couple of improvements. Now, this is what we would do with the client, the tradie. We would sit with them and kind of show them this is the interface, this is the conversation, and work with the client to work out exactly what kind of a conversation flow they want. Okay, before we then finalize the integration with SMS. Right, before you finalize the integration with SMS, you want to finalize the conversation flow and get the client, the trader, to test it with you, sitting down, show them how it works, show them what it's asking, how it's responding, what the quote looks like, what it's using to calculate the quote, what the email looks like, all those things before you do the final step. Right, you want to get sign off. Once you get sign off based on the test user interface, then you integrate to SMS, because once it's in SMS, you don't want to go back and start changing things, because then it's a bigger change. Okay, so you can see that within a very short period of time, we're able to develop this agent, integrate it with the client's tools, right, to generate the quote based on their rate card and the way that they work, the supplies that they use. Okay, and we would call their tools, right, their databases, to calculate the estimate. If they don't have that, most of them don't, I'll be honest with you, they have it on Google Sheet or Excel or just on a notebook. Okay, and they kind of estimate it manually based on the job size and the materials needed and their own understanding of how long it's going to take. And so we're automating that, right? So we would create a Google Sheet for them, put the details in it, connect everything up to the agent as we have done. And for that piece of work, we charge them $3,000 to $5,000, okay, and a monthly retainer. And they're happy to pay it because it saves them 8 to 10 hours. Not only that, but it allows them to respond to their customers immediately. Because if they don't, customers, you know what they do, right? You do it as well. You go to the next supplier on your list of who you're going to call, right? If you don't get a response quickly, you move on to the next supplier. So that's what it's about, okay? So let's refine the conversation, and then we will move on to the next stage, which is integrating this with SMS. And that's going to be the primary channel for this agent.